Our next guest speaker is Mrs. Maha Al-Ghunaim. Mrs. Maha Al-Ghunaim is the chairperson and managing director of Global Investment House. She holds a bachelor's degree in science and mathematics from the USA. Mrs. Al-Ghunaim has been named among the most powerful personalities for 2010 by Forbes. One of the most powerful Arabs in 2010 by the Arabian Business. Among the 50 most admired executives in the GCC by Arabian Business, December 2009. And the top financier of the year, Elon's top entrepreneurs of the year, December 2009. And this is from me. Mrs. Maha Al-Ghunaim stood against all the odds, and she made it. She's going to create miracles. Let's welcome Mrs. Maha Al-Ghunaim.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm very honored to be here today. I'm very excited about being here. I'm sorry maybe I was unable to hear the earlier speeches because obviously I was working. But I had the honor to listen to the last few, and it's really a pleasure to be here. I want to start by thanking my dear friend Tidal Ayar for considering me for an event like this. It's a real honor. And to be truthful, I didn't really know what TEDx was all about. You can tell I'm not somebody who's used to browsing the internet or checking blogs or YouTube, but she was kind enough with her lovely daughter Dana to educate me about what TEDx is all about. And I was very excited about it. And I love the concept and the fact that it's about sharing ideas, about sharing each other's experience and learning from each other. So I decided to do some research and started to look at the different speeches and examples of how people usually conduct themselves in an event like TEDx. And I was excited and happy to hear some of these experiences. People talked about what their latest product is, or what was their recent challenge, or what's the new technology and how the world is going to evolve, or just simply listening to wise people talking about their experiences and what they've learned in life. So I started to think, what am I here going to talk about? How can I share part of my experience without boring you or trying to inspire you in this little short period of time? So I think the best thing to do is to talk about my journey, at least the journey when it involves my working career and how I came to be where I am today. And I have to say, obviously, that I have never imagined in my wildest dreams, if you had asked me 20 years ago, where would I be, that I would picture myself to be in this position or to be doing what I'm doing today. So I think the aim of what I'm trying to reach at this point is to tell you, plans do not always work. Some people can have a very vivid image since high school on where they want to be after they graduate. And once they graduate, where do they want to work? They know exactly how they want to conduct their life. I wasn't one of those people. Actually, I went to the university in the States thinking I was going to be an engineer. And the only reason I thought to be an engineer is because my elder sister became an engineer. My brother went there as an engineer, so I assumed I have to be an engineer too. Never really gave it much of a thought. After 1 year of being in the university, I've decided to change my major because I just hated engineering and I loved mathematics. So I just decided to major in mathematics. Now, have I thought at that point of time, once I graduate, what does that mean? What can I do with a mathematics degree? Never thought about that. Did I think or consider where would I be working? Never thought about that. I just decided to study what I loved, which was mathematics. So I graduated and went back to Kuwait. And then, looking for a job, things were much simpler 25, 30 years ago. You didn't have to be a business major to actually work in business. So I applied for the only place to be were the banking institutions, the different banks in Kuwait. And then somebody recommended, why not check investment companies? Okay, I'll try investment companies. So there were very few choices, actually, only 3 investment companies at the time. And I went and applied for in each and every one of them. And I remember going to one of those investment companies at the time that was considered really elite and the top of its league in the investment sector. So I walk in with my resume, a fresh grad from the United States, all excited, all bubbly. And I meet this man who's the head of human resources. And he's sitting on his chair. It was the month of August. He looks at me, and he looks at my resume, and he looks at my name, and says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Why aren't you in Switzerland with your parents?" I said, "Because I want a job." He says, "Are you sure? Why? You don't have to work in August. Go and come back in October." I said, "No, I want to work now. Can you please look at my resume?" So he looks at my resume, asks me a few questions with his head tied behind his back, and told me, "We don't hire women. Sorry." So took my bag, went back home, applied somewhere else, got accepted in another investment companies. And the irony of the story that 12 years later, I became the boss of his boss. Just shows you plans don't always happen the way you planned them. Plans are difficult because you don't want to control your life through a plan for a person you used to be. We're changing every day. Technology changes us every day. Did you think you will be doing what you're doing today with technology like you were 3 years ago? Did you imagine the iPad? Did you imagine the iPhone? Did you imagine the BBM? Or what we're doing today, every day? It's become so advanced that we really can't plan how the world is going to be in a year's time or 3 years' time or yet alone 10 years' time. I believe you should have your plans on short-term objectives and be flexible and change with the environment and be opportunistic and try to move to where your passion is. I guess the biggest challenge is for all of us and for all the young generation is to find your passion. I'm glad Hissa, when she was talking, she talked about her passion. It's so beautiful when you find your passion because you can definitely accelerate once you do that. So my experience started in this institution, an investment firm owned by the government of Kuwait, and I started from the bottom of the ladder. And there are a lot of challenges that I had to confront through my career, and I'll try to talk about them in different phases. I think one of the most important challenges was I was working in a field which I had no knowledge of. I've never had accounting. I've never had finance. I've never had marketing. I'm a mathematician. But I suppose being a mathematician was a good ground to do business because you have to deal with numbers, and I wasn't inhibited by numbers. So I had to start my career path from the bottom of the ladder, from being a simple clerk, opening the ledger book. It was a ledger book, believe me or not, and we didn't have PCs at that time. There were big computer machines, and I would sit with my calculator and add numbers and subtract numbers. Maybe I was lucky I had few mentors who believed in my capabilities, and they helped me through this process to learn and educate me through practical experience. And I had to educate myself too. I had to do a lot of reading. I had to try to attend a lot of conferences to try to upgrade myself